And today I've got with me Martha Ellis, who's the Executive Director, and Carl Wilmus, who's the Deputy Executive Director. And we're here to talk about, and I'm going to let Martha introduce it because it's kind of her baby. She's been escorting this thing and building it with Carl's help. So Martha, tell everybody what we're here to talk about.
We are here to talk about, and I also want to give equal billing to Carl because clearly this has been a team effort getting to the point that we are right now. However, what we're building is a first of its kind, a one-of-a-kind conference summit for FirstNet users and potential users. And the idea is to essentially create a space where we can bring all of the subject matter expertise and subject matter experts to the potential or the end user, so we can make sure that when decisions are being made on what your wireless broadband selection is going to be, and or if you are already using FirstNet, in all components of that, it's being optimized to your greatest advantage. So it's the Vision 2020 FirstNet End User Summit. And that will be in Westminster, Colorado. It'll be September 28th through October 1st. And we are just working very hard. Carl and I are working very hard to bring together some extraordinary content, some peer-to-peer opportunities so that our attendees can hear directly from the folks that are already using FirstNet. And also just bringing some of the highest level of subject matter expertise into the room so you'll have direct access to those folks. And building out some tremendous content and hands-on experiences. So we're very excited about where we're headed.
Excellent. What do you want to add, Carl?
Well, I think Martha summed it up pretty well, but to echo some of her thoughts, I think the conference is going to bring the best of the best, the subject matter experts, into a networking situation where if you want to, you can have technology meet up with management and management meet up with users. And that one group could be from 9/11 dispatchers to a fire chief or a police chief or a city manager. So the attendees will get a perspective like none other because they'll have a perspective from all walks of public safety.
Okay, so what's the imperative to be there? I mean, here we're coming into a time when government budgets are down. We've got the COVID-19 issue. Convince me that it's important to be there.
Well, I think it's important to be there. First of all, let me just expand a little bit on what Carl had said about the audiences and being able to interact across different decision-making elements of within an agency. We have separated our curriculum into three distinct tracks because we want to make sure that the messaging that people are hearing is relevant to them. So we have an administrative track, which again would go back to the anything from mayors, city managers, city council people, all the way up to your department heads and their support staff. We have an IT track, so we will be bringing in subject matter experts that will be able to really speak more of that tech language that may or may not be relevant to an administrator. And then the last track is the end user. And those are that's where the heart and soul of our association is, to be honest with you, because clearly we are advocates for the end users, making sure that they're getting all of the information necessary to make the best decisions on their broadband selection. So why is it important for all of these different individual track representatives to be there is because what we're bringing to this conference is an experience. We're striving not to talk at people. We are striving to engage people. We are striving to give that peer-to-peer experience. And our vendor partners are extremely excited because a lot of what we're doing with our vendor floor is going to be more dynamic. We're going to have a lot of integration of hardware and application case studies woven into our curriculum as well. So why is it a value add for you to be there? Because it's going to give you unprecedented access to the subject matter experts and also an ability to touch and feel and experience these things to better facilitate the decision-making process.
But why is that relevant to today's first responder when they're purely focused on COVID-19, the fact that it may resurge in this fall and it may come back more angry than it is now? So how do you tie those two together?
Well, I think you tie it together because,
go ahead, Carl.
FirstNet is revolutionizing the communication world. And I always like to say it's better to be a part of than apart from. And so if you're a city manager, or if you're a user, or if you're a 911 dispatcher, or if you're an emergency manager, to be in a situation, in a place, and to be able to attend a conference that has not only state-of-the-art expertise attending with subject matter experts to train and network, it's a one-of-a-kind opportunity for individuals across the country.
Well, and if I can, I've got two things I want to add on to that. One of the things is any public servant that's been to the large national conferences has spent time on a vendor floor. And in most cases, it's a little bit of a hit or miss situation, not only for the vendors, but also for the attendees to be able to find the things that are salient to them. So the way that we've distilled this down, the messaging and the information is very specific. So being able to get in there and get laser focused on what you want and who you're looking for and what you want to learn will be availed to you very, very readily. The second thing is, when we talk about, especially in this day and age with COVID, I think it's clear that the rest of the world doesn't shut down completely. I mean, granted, we are definitely seeing a decrease in automobile accidents and those sorts of things, but the wheels keep turning. And so to be able to take a situation like COVID, where we're dealing with continuity of operations problems, potentially staffing decreases because of quarantining and so forth, being able to use FirstNet and leveraging your mutual and automatic aid assets through that interoperability, which is one of the huge things that FirstNet offers, is a force multiplier. And so it's super important as we look at potential decreases in our workforce. How are we going to fill those gaps? What is that continuity of operations plan? And I think FirstNet is a linchpin in so much of that, because communications is always the first thing that we talk about in post-incident analysis. So those are my two reasons.
I've seen a number of stories out there about hospitals and EMS agencies and ambulance companies and nurses switching to FirstNet. There's a special offer out there right now for medical people. So will this conference include stuff that's relevant to doctors and nurses in that EMS community? Are they welcome? Can they attend? Are they part of this?
Oh, absolutely. Clearly, those are what we would call extended primary users. And what we're experiencing right now is so demonstrative of how the first responder does not get everything done by themselves. This nothing happens in a vacuum. So what's super important to realize is our front line can move from the ER to a parking lot to a ship. So the integration of not only your first responders, who are our primary users on FirstNet, but also the cascading groups that interact and facilitate and make everything happen and protect the community are clearly part of this discussion. Carl, did you want to add something to that?
Well, it's a team effort. And so not to make cliches, but there's no I in team. And you can certainly see in this with COVID-19 that it does take a team. And whether it's a doctor or a nurse or a first responder or a paramedic or emergency manager, all the way to management and leadership, for all of this to come together, it needs to be a cohesive team. And this conference will just, make that a little bit more visible, I think, because you will have these people there, sharing their experiences. And what better way to learn than to share experiences from people who have been frontline and center and in that emergency room, or responding that call, or making that hard decision. Do we close this, or do we leave it open?
So with all that said, what is your vendor profile look for? You said you made a comment about vendor supporting and vendor floor. So what will the typical vendor look like?
Well, right now we're focusing on inviting vendors, application developers, hardware developers that have already been through the FirstNet certification processes, whether they're FirstNet ready or FirstNet certified. And that is our primary focus, because as we bring people into this this ecosystem of FirstNet, whether it's about the core, the actual network itself, the hardware, or the applications that we're using. We want to make sure that the first thing that we're presenting are things that are super relevant on the network. So that's the first tier. And so it could be anything, Dick, from mobile routers to drones to applications that allow you to, turn your cell phone into a body camera, situational awareness, GIS. I mean, all of those sorts of things will be at the ready for people to explore and touch and feel and check out. Is it intuitive enough for them to deploy themselves in their jurisdiction? So, can you think of any other vendor profiles, Carl, that
Sure, we could add,
include?
Including vendors with biometrics and wellness and safety and those different kinds of things to help the first responders.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly. What we're trying to do is provide a very broad cross section of means to access the network, enhance your network experience, and then also just what the end user needs to do their jobs in the field and go home safely.
And we'll have a cadre of vendors there to not only explain their products but to show how those products add to the team. And so it won't be like a typical conference where you have so many vendors there that if someone actually hits all of those booths, they don't really learn anything. This will be kind of a learning experience at each vendor booth.
Well, and the fun thing about that is I think the way we're trying to dovetail our vendors and also the FirstNet applications into the presentations in a case study type of a format, that's one way that we're trying to differentiate our conference from others. The other thing that we're doing is after our 2 days of content and presentations and panels, the Thursday after the main classroom portions is going to be a really hands-on kind of day. It's almost like we're going to be being able to take people to the lab where all of the work is done to vet out the hardware and the software. We're also bringing some of the lab experience to the Westminster Hotel, the Westin as well. And a lot of our vendors are looking forward to staying on Thursday and putting drones in the air, showing you how you can augment your situational awareness using the tools that all are so much more effective going over the FirstNet network.
Excellent. So how do you learn more and where will you go to register? And is registration even open yet?
Well, it's not quite open yet. We are working on getting that. We're in the final phases of tweaking that, the homepage and the registration pages, but they will be up soon. So if you just do a Google search on Vision 2020 FirstNet End User Summit, things should start popping up soon as soon as we get that URL actually published and up and running.
Okay, and so it's also available, I would think, on the PSBTA.org?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Once everything's up, we will definitely be posting banners and mechanisms for you to get to the Vision 2020 website through the PSBTA.org website as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Dick. Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Martha.